Welcome to Systems at Work.
Users can access Expense at Work on their computer and tablets using a browser, or they can use the dedicated app which is available for iOS or Android mobile phones. In corporate environments, Expense at Work also supports Active Directory for authentication. Let's start by taking a look at some of the options that are available to ordinary users of the system. After logging in, the user will see the Today page, which shows any tasks that they have to perform. For this employee, you can see that they have some forms in progress which they can work on, or alternatively, they can create a new form. If the user has permissions, they may also run reports, in this case looking at just their own data, but senior employees can have access to departmental or other organizational reports. Users can also go to the History tab to see information relating to claims or other forms that they've previously submitted and their status. When a user goes to create a form, they're given a list of available form types. This list varies depending on their permissions and the types of forms that have been set up. In addition to Expense Form, the application also can be configured to capture many other types of form data, such as travel requests, details of absence, or requisitions. Forms can be designed to capture whatever information you require, and this is a typical form. We can add additional fields easily, such as location, trip number, or broker information. In fact, any number of fields can be added to capture whatever information you require. As I mentioned, Expense at Work can be used for many types of data capture, not just expenses. Here we can see a user has completed a hospitality and corporate gifts form to record details of gifts given to a customer. This is an important and very useful feature for many clients who are bound by the provisions of the Bribery Act, for example. On this form, you can see that we can enter postcode information and the system automatically calculates the distance. The mileage rate is also calculated automatically by this system, and the rates can vary depending on such factors as car type, car ownership, and the distances travelled during the year. Another very useful feature in Expense at Work is Favourites, which allows regularly claimed items to be saved and selected from the Favourites button to speed up the entry process. When using the system, users have the option to display their form in grid mode, as shown here, or in item mode, as shown here. Access to this function can be controlled by an administrator and can be restricted to certain form types if preferred. Sometimes users may prefer or need to work in Excel, and a very useful feature in the system called Excel Absorption allows a form to be exported to Excel, additional lines can then be added, and the form can then be brought back into Expense at Work where it can be submitted. Receipts can be added either at a line or form level from the desktop, or they can be photographed and uploaded directly from the mobile app. When a user is completing their claim, it can often be useful to see details of previously submitted items without leaving the form to run a report. They can do this by clicking their drill icon, and the system will display all expenses submitted by the user previously for this expense type, in this case, hotels. Another way in which Expense at Work speeds up the data entry process is using the copy function, which allows lines to be easily duplicated and then edited rather than starting from scratch. Data validation is an important component of the enforcement options available in Expense at Work, and the system will validate expenses information being entered to ensure it complies with policy. In this example, the system is warning that future dates are being entered. And here, we can see an example of how Expense at Work is warning the user that the amount they are claiming for hotel expenses is in breach of policy. There is no limit to the number and nature of policy rules that can be set up in the system. Users can save a form and return to it later. When they're finally ready to submit the form for approval, it will be routed to the appropriate individuals based on the workflow rules that have been set up in the system. These rules allow forms to be routed based on hierarchical relationships. For example, forms can go to a line manager and then to finance. But workflow can also be based on exceptions and limits, for example, requiring additional sign-off on claims over £500. A user can see the status of all current and past forms by going to their history section. Here we can see that most of this employee's forms have been authorised and posted, but forms 31 and 33 are still being worked on by the employee, and form 30 is waiting to be authorised by Arthur Alberts, this employee's line manager. One of the most popular features of Expense at Work can be accessed from the history section. It's the ability for an employee to create a new expense claim by copying an old one. Here we're going to open claim number 30. Note, we cannot change it because it's already been submitted. However, we can copy it, either in its entirety or by selecting individual lines. When we click on New Form, we have a brand new claim, number 34, ready for us to edit and add to as needed. You will see the transaction dates have deliberately been left off this newly created form so as to ensure that the employee enters current claim information correctly. Before logging in as a line manager, let's take a quick look at the reporting options available to this employee. Access to reports and data is configurable by an administrator. This example employee can see their own data. For example, a matrix report showing expenses broken out by client, a bar chart showing total expenditure this year by expense type, a dashboard showing a variety of information in graphical format, a transaction listing of all expenses claimed this year by this employee, and finally, a mileage report. We are now going to log into the system as Arthur Alberts, who is the line manager for this employee. His Today screen shows that he has one form to authorise, and he may also optionally have received an email to advise him of this. If Arthur is a mobile app user, he also has the option to authorise expenses directly from his phone. By clicking on the link, our line manager is shown details of the form to be authorised. If his permissions allow it, he can have the option to authorise this form without opening it. In this case, however, we're going to open the form and we can see the details of the form submitted by Stephen Hughes a few moments ago. You will notice that the line manager is not allowed to change anything on this form. This is an optional system setting, and so the only options available to him are to approve the claim or reject it. The system also allows partial rejection, however that has not been enabled for this form type. In this case, our line manager is happy with the claim, and when he clicks Authorise, the claim is routed to the next stage of the process. This is typically finance, but could be a further level of authorization if, for example, this claim breached or exceeded some company policy. You may have noticed that this line manager, a departmental head, has access to additional reports not available to our previous employee. In this case, a report titled My Department, which allows Arthur to see details of all employees who work in his department and the expenses that they've submitted. The final stage of our expense claim journey requires us to log in as a member of the finance team. As with the manager, they will have received an alert to tell them that they have an expense claim waiting for their review. Unlike the manager, however, they have been given permission to change certain items on the form if they spot that an employee has made a mistake, with expense classification, for example. They could alternatively return the form to the manager or the employee and ask them to make any necessary changes or provide further information. The reporting options available to finance are extensive. They include the ability to report on expenses across the organisation in either dashboard or transaction format, and to control the timeframes across which those reports are run. In addition, the finance team have access to various administrative functions such as Identity Switch, which allows them to log into the system as another employee and perform tasks on their behalf. Form control, which allows them to route a form to another member of staff for action. Ledger modification, which allows them to modify previously posted form data. For example, if an error was subsequently brought to their attention, such as the booking of an expense to the wrong client. And ledger export, which allows finance to export all approved transactions to the preferred finance system, such as Sun Systems, Dynamics GP or NAV, SAP, Sage, or Coda.